Okay, so when it comes to food, you just have to know what you're eating. Is it a fat, a carb, or a protein? All right, so you want to fill your protein first, then your carbohydrate, or no, not your carbohydrates, then your fat, then your carbohydrates. All right, so for example, my first meal is always at home, and so it is 2 eggs, a little bit of avocado, some goat cheese. I mix it on the skillet. Have a slice of sprouted grain bread with it, and maybe put some marinara or salsa or something like that on it, and it's delicious. But I want to show you sprouted grain bread. The reason why this bread is so great, this one's from Aldi's, but anytime the grain sprouts, it becomes more of vegetable properties. So it has more fiber in it, and it doesn't spike your insulin like just white bread or things like that. So I always have at least 1 or 2 slices of sprouted grain bread in my day, just because it is lower carbohydrate, it acts more like a vegetable, it doesn't spike your insulin, and it still allows you to have something like bread. Okay, so in there we had fat, protein, and a little bit of carbohydrates in that first meal. All right, so protein sources are everything meat related. Protein typically always has some sort of fat in it, never should have some sort of carbohydrate in it. So you think of, like, chicken, pork, steak, whatever it may be. There's always traces of fat, but there's never carbohydrates, all right? So eggs, those are your protein sources. The fat sources are normally only fat. There's never carbohydrates in it. Fat sources are only fat, all right? So we're getting like avocado oil, MCT oil, coconut milk, some coconut water. And if you like none of those things, that's fine. You transition over to some other sources of fat, not super great because they still have fat, but then they're coupled with some carbohydrates normally and some protein. So if you're getting things like almonds or walnuts or hazelnuts, pistachios, all those are not protein sources. Those are fat sources. They are packed with a bunch of fat in a small amount. They have some traces of protein, and almonds even have some traces of carbs. I never really recommend nuts because it's really easy to overeat anything from the nut group. So for instance, like for my next meal, and if I'm on the go, all right? Oh, that was loud. So we have these, and they're huge. These wraps, they're only 100 calories. All right, and 17 grams of carbohydrates. It's huge. So normally you can make pizza with it, breakfast pizza. You can just make like a ham wrap with a bunch of vegetables, a chicken wrap with a ton of vegetables on it, something like that. Pre-make it, wrap it in foil, put it in the fridge so that it's easy to take with you and go. All right. Another thing I do that's super simple. Green beans, and I do canned green beans, but I just make sure that they don't have any salt added. So I'll take like half a can of green beans, mix it in with some already cooked ground turkey. So there you're having a good carbohydrate source, you're having a protein source, a little bit of fat, and then I'll get these really small like yams or sweet potatoes. They're pretty much the same thing. But these are a lot smaller than typically the sweet potatoes that are in the store. They're on steroids. So I'll take one of these, cut off the ends, skin it really fast, put it in the microwave for like 2 minutes, and it's good to go. So there's like a second meal for you. Okay, so Hazel's crying. So think about that, and then I'll make you a more nutrition video. Okay. And so say if you're out and you're like, what should I get? So say you get a salad. Just always know what is in your salad. Never, ever eat dressing out. Okay? Even if it says low fat, guess what that means? It's going to be high sugar. And then you don't need a full fat dressing either. There's a lot of other options. So you either just do no dressing, squeeze some lemon juice on it, or maybe find some guacamole or some salsa. Those are all really good tricks. Or take your own dressing. If a salad has nuts on it, no nuts. If it has cranberries on it, X the cranberries. Those are just extra added fats and sugars that you can't really control the amount, so just X those off. If it has bacon, sorry, you should X that off as well. Your salad should be a salad, mostly of a lot of vegetables and protein, like the chart sent you, all those high packed power green and vegetables, all right? Ketchup, it has a lot of sugar. So if you're going to eat ketchup, they do make really, really low sugar ketchups out there. They're expensive, but they do make them. Mustard is great. You can use mustard. Even some honey mustard is better than ketchup. Barbecue sauce is a no-go. Because what's barbecue sauce? It's molasses and brown sugar, which is sugar, sugar, sugar. So I'm holding this stinky bean, but I'm going to prop up my phone. I'm going to show you some like dressing alternatives, because I feel like condiments are where a lot of people fail. Okay, hold this. All right, so we have something, avocado ranch dressing. They normally make something like this everywhere, but guess what? You could have 2 tablespoons, which is a lot, for only 40 calories, only 3.5 grams of fat, and 2 grams of carbohydrates. So this would be something that I would suggest choosing, and I've put this on chicken, fish, stuff like that, not just salad, but this is a great dressing to have to put on your meat. Spicy brown mustard. All right, it's only 5 calories. The serving size is 1 teaspoon, so it's small, but mustard packs a powerful punch for a small amount. Salsa. Okay, I put salsa on a lot of stuff because there's only 10 calories for 2 tablespoons, 0 fat, and only 2 carbohydrates. So I use salsa a lot to put on my eggs or my meat, or make stuff with salsa. I really like Mexican flavors, so I use a lot of like salsa, cayenne pepper, cumin, onions, and things like that. And if I'm not cooking it, just look for those things when you're out. All right, I do use a creamer sometimes. This is 1 tablespoon is a serving size. It's 5 carbohydrates, so that's 5 sugars. But if it's something that you're like, man, I'm having a hard time giving up, split to something that's around like 5 grams of carbohydrates. All right, now when it comes to fruit, we all like fruit, yes, because what is fruit? Fruit is sugar. Okay, but our body's insulin also really spikes when we give it sugar, just as if you were going to eat a candy bar or something like that. So nix out all of the fruit except the berry groups, all right? So you got blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, and strawberries. All of those you can have a lot of for a low amount of carbohydrates. So they're going to spike your insulin the least, all right? Bananas have like 25 to 30 grams of carbohydrates in it, and that sometimes is more than 1 candy bar, okay? Apples, the same way. Pineapple, you can have some pineapple, but you're gonna have to measure it out because it's very dense. Watermelon is super sugary. So any of the tropical fruits or things in the melons, just cut them out. Treat yourself with anything of the berries group, and just making sure you don't overdo it, because it is the sugar is all sugar, and our body and insulin reacts the same. All right. So what we're trying to avoid is those insulin spikes and our body storing that sugar into our fat stores, because we don't need any extra fat stores. All right, so the last thing I'm going to talk about real quick is the gut. And if you just think about it, God designed our bodies already to function properly from what we put in them and how our brain reacts to it. So our gut sends signals to our brain, whether we're full, we're hungry, we've eaten too much sugar, we want more sugar, we want more fat, we want protein, whatever it may be, our gut sends those signals to our brain. All right, so we all know we have good and bad bacteria in our gut, and the bad bacteria is fueled by sugar. So already, like, God already designed that our body shouldn't have a lot of sugar because it fuels the bad bacteria. And then what that does is it sends our brain signal that says, I want more sugar. And not only does it disrupt a lot of our body functions, UTIs, cholesterol, blood pressure, candida, yeast, things like that, it just tells our body that our brain, that we want more sugar. All right, so good bacteria in the gut is what we're looking for, and that's what sends those positive signals to our brain that we're meeting our nutritional needs. Okay, so when you're out, what can you do when you're out? So you're just gonna look for the things that we know: proteins, fats, and low carbohydrate. So say you go to like Chipotle, okay? So you have the options of what to choose. Proteins. So protein, nix the rice. That is a high carbohydrate food with no nutritional value. All right, so no rice. I would put it on all of the vegetables you can. Salsa, the vegetables, the leaves, guacamole. And I would also nix the beans, because you don't know where those beans are from. You don't know how much you're getting. And beans are also, even though they're on the list for a powerhouse food, you can eat way over your serving size really easily. So, so that's an example for like Chipotle, okay? If you're going out to eat and you're like at a restaurant, well, just know your basics: protein, fat, low carbohydrate. So a meat, a vegetable, and no carbohydrates. So if you ordered like a burger, okay, just no bun, put it on some lettuce, or just eat it with the onions, a pickle, tomato, stuff like that. Never get wraps. Never get wraps. They're never going to be the healthy wraps. They're going to be full of sodium, full of fat, and full of carbohydrates. So when you're out, never get a wrap. Just stick to the meat by itself, the vegetables by itself, things like that. Fish, I'm trying to think. Sushi is a no-go unless you find a place that will wrap it in seaweed and not rice, because they use a lot of rice for their sushi. Even though it doesn't look like a lot, it's a lot. I don't eat out much, but if you have questions about places to go and what you should eat when you eat out, just let me know. But the more things you can prepare and make from home, the better. And just thinking of those basics. What is it? A protein, I need that first. A fat, I need that second. And a carbohydrate, I need that last. And very little of a carbohydrate. And when you're thinking of, like, say, sweets, all right? So I love sweets. I don't love salty. I don't like chips and things like that, but I love sweets. So when I'm thinking of sweets, I'm going to gravitate to something like dark chocolate, because it's been proven to reduce our insulin spikes more than just regular chocolate. They do make keto treats, which a lot of times they're made from almond flour, no white sugar, and things like that. Be careful on those. Know what's in them before you decide to eat them. But sometimes, like, there's some places that make them here homemade, and I know what they are, and so I might treat myself to one of those instead of, a cookie or a cake or things like that. Now, that's keeping it basic. You don't have to cut out the foods that you like. Just know how to change them up to be better, or know how to decrease your serving size of the foods that you like. Or you can really gung-ho and track your macros, and then you can figure out how to fit in the foods that you like and still hitting your macronutrient goals, which would be the ideal. But you do have to track your food with that MyFitnessPal or some sort of thing to do it that way. But macro missionaries, they talk a lot about that. That's what they do. They don't cut out food. They don't eliminate food. They eat what they want, but they also track their food to a T so that they know, are they going to be in that surplus or are they still in that deficit? Just always want to stay in that deficit if that's your goal, is to lose weight, which that is your goal. So there is my tidbit on food right now. Shoot me back with whatever questions you have, and we will chat more.